Well, that was the Cat Empire. They don't start with M, but that's track did. It was Motion. And that's for the entire Murray family. I have to say my whole family would be dancing around the living room right now. I'm thrilled to be about to interview Dave Warner, who's a multi-talented creative force. And funnily enough, Jim from Dulwich Hill did suggest an M song by Dave Warner for this playlist of all Aussie songs starting with M by the artist or the name. But Mug's Game, which you suggested, Jim, I decided wouldn't pass the profanity test that we have here at the station. So I asked the artist himself, I said to Dave, hey, give me an M song starting with M that I can play to all the Northside Radio listeners. And in fact, he suggested a song called Million Miles from Home. Thanks, Dave. Here it is.
I drained another pastis, searched in vain for an accomplice, pen poised above the postcard. I didn't think writing back would be this hard, but how can you tell the truth? They only want to hear what they want to hear. They want to hear about success. From Amsterdam to Munich, from Brussels on to Zurich, they'll be sitting round the TV, watching the action replay. But oh, you lucky pricks, I wish I was there, 'cause I'm all alone, and that's not much fun when you're a million miles from home. I've seen the Eiffel Tower, and I would have traded that for a proper shower. I've lived for months on bread and cheese, and I'm sick of that, and museums and art galleries. Just give me my best friends, a beer, a barbecue, and a steak that bends. But I'll go back and I'll tell you all about the fine wines and the great times and the laughter and the girls. You'll be crowded round my letter, envious of this trendsetter. But oh, you lucky pricks, I wish I was there, 'cause I'm all alone, and that's not much fun when you're a million miles from home. I drained another pastis, searched the rain for an accomplice, turned insane by the River Rhine, blinded by the sun on the riverside. But how can you tell the truth? They only want to hear what they want to hear. They want to hear about success. From Amsterdam to Munich, from Brussels on to Zurich, they'll be sitting round the TV, watching the action replay. But oh, you lucky pricks, I wish I was there, 'cause I'm all alone, and that's not much fun when you're a million miles from home.
My guest is not actually a million miles from home, but is 4,000 kilometres from where he began his creative journey. You might know him as the original voice of Aussie suburban rock, that very suburban boy himself, Dave Warner. Welcome, Dave.
Yeah, hi, Sue. Hi, Northside.
Yeah, yes, well, you are a Northside boy now. And what
Yeah.
led you to move across to Nullarbor?
It was really just lack of opportunities in Perth, growing up there. And the good thing about Perth was that you could really test yourself creatively because there was kind of no chance of you getting any exposure on television or music or music papers or anything. There was nothing like that there, and so you led to yourself to be original. But it came to a point, particularly around 1987, when I decided I may as well move over because I wanted to get into other writing besides music. I wanted to get into writing TV and films and ultimately, plays and books. And I thought that I needed to be in Sydney or Melbourne to do that.
I think what's wonderful is you've continued to be a music creator as well as a writer, and that you did reach a wide audience with your album, which I used to dance to, I have to confess. And I should actually declare an interest to people listening to us that I did know you back in the Sandgroper days and used to do my underage drinking at Steve's Hotel, where Dave Warner's from the suburbs or up on stage. So we do go back a long way, and I've really enjoyed every step of your creative journey, Dave. I know that you actually have written a range of things. What led you to being a script writer?
Look, it kind of worked like this, that after doing a number of years on the road, I'd had enough. And in fact, it was the smoke in venues, the old days when you could still smoke in venues. And
Yep.
I'm an asthmatic, and it got so bad, I decided I just had to do something else. I just couldn't play night after night. That was the main reason I gave up playing music full time, and the first thing that I did was started to write musicals, little musicals and rock musicals, because I felt that I could write a play or a story, a narrative, and of course I had the music background. And then from there I kind of branched out. I came to Sydney, and I wasn't doing full time music, and I'd always wanted to be a writer write books from the time I was about 12, and so I actually wrote my first novel, City of Light, in 1995. It took me about 3 years to write it. And it was a crime detective novel, and it was pretty successful. It won the WA Premier's Award for Best Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a result of that, strangely enough, I then started to get some interest in writing television screenplays. So producers got in contact with me, and I got onto some good writing teams. So in a way, the screenwriting ended up being the last of the steps in the chain. And now I don't do that a lot. I've got a couple of little projects that I'm doing, but I'm kind of back to writing books primarily now.
I actually think you're being very modest, and our listeners might not know that you actually did a lot of work on award-winning series like McLeod's Daughters and Packed to the Rafters and the In Excess telemovie, and your film scripts have been produced and starred some very fascinating people, which I recommend people go to your website and read more about. But I do want to focus on your crime fiction writing, and City of Light, in fact, ended up being the first in a series, didn't it? Your Dan Clement and Snowy Lane series of books.
Yes, I that was introduced Snowy Lane, my detective, and as I say, that was 1995. It came out, and then I did a series of some other books and stuff. And I always wanted to bring Snowy back, but I didn't quite have the right vehicle for it. And I came up with this idea in about 2006. I thought, I really want to do a book where the geography and the location is as big a character as any of the human characters. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to do something in the Kimberley up there in Western Australia, because it's so different, it's so unique from anywhere in the world. And so I originally was going to use my character Snowy Lane from City of Light in that book, but when I started to write the book, I thought, no, Snowy Lane by that stage was a private detective at the end of my first book, and I thought, no, this needs to be somebody who's an actual cop to get the information. And so I created a new character, Dan Clement, and he ended up being in my first book there, Before It Breaks, that came out in about 2015, 2016. So he was the first, and then I put Dan and Snowy together for the second one, and it got the best of both worlds, and now in this third one, it's back to Dan again. And so it was, again, it's funny how worked through. You know, that you think here's something that you want to bring a character back, but it just wasn't quite the right vehicle for Snowy, and so Dan was created, and he's got centre stage now.
I love hearing about the process you go through and what shapes the thinking. I did wonder if you set it, these books in the Kimberley just so you could claim trips there as a tax deduction. Have you been to the Kimberley to research the location?
No, not at all. Look, I've been to the Kimberley 3 times, and they were just short tours really with the band, and I'd never done anything like the Gibb River Road or any of these famous places that all my friends in Sydney have been to. And they'll go, oh yeah, we've been there, and so I haven't been there.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of Google, and fortunately because I know people who've lived up that way, I could contact people and say, look, what am I missing here? Is there something? But as it turns out, a great thing is that in September, I'm going to the Kimberley Writers' Festival up to Kununurra. So I'll get the first chance, and they'll get the first chance to hit me over the head with brickbats for all the stuff that I got wrong, you know.
Yes, it's funny the little details they might pull you up on, but they'll be thrilled that you're shining a spotlight on what is a really unique part of the world. And I should say that you were, again, a bit modest. You didn't mention that Before It Breaks, the second in the series, did win you the Ned Kelly Award for Best Crime Fiction in Australia. Bravo, Dave.
No, that was great. It's terrific, you know, like it's not that for most of us, there's not a lot of money in writing books, but and so any kind of support and kudos. And Sue, I know you're a writer, and it's a different thing from when you're performing live with a band or even doing comedy. You know, you have an immediate interaction with your audience, and so you kind of know whether things are working and what they like and what they don't like. But when you're an author, you put stuff out there, and you really only get the feedback from the reading public in dribs and drabs, you know. So it's a very different process, and you just have to trust your instincts and hope that people are liking what you do.
What I love, though, is that you've developed a package, or I don't know if you have continued it post-COVID, where you've got a package where you go to libraries and other venues and tie together some of your music, some of your reading, and some of your script writing ability to create really what is more of a show than just an author talk. Is that
yes, yeah. Look, I have I have to say it's a really enjoyable thing to do. Look, I'm in my 60s now, and most of my audience and most of the library audience are similarly placed, but they all went to rock bands and rock venues and still go, you know, and still go to concerts. And so I found that it's a terrific forum, and I'm actually doing the whole month of September. I'm in Western Australia doing those tours, and they've been very proactive there. And same, I've done a Victorian tour. When I've tried to do some things in New South Wales, and I just haven't found the support or the backing, certainly from the libraries that we've approached, because there's a small cost for them. You know, they've got to supply a PA and and that's about it, and pay for some travel costs. But they just don't, you know, the ones that I've been in touch with have not seemed to have been as progressive as the interstate counterparts. But it's a terrific thing. And, you know, libraries are such great resources, and great resources these days. You can get audio books.
Oh, I agree.
Shows.
You've got to love librarians, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they're fantastic. And as I say, it's such great fun to do because I kind of have got a free canvas. I've got all these little things that I like doing, so I can read a poem or tell a bit of a story, like almost like this conversation now, where I'm, you know, you might say, oh, where did that song come from? Or I'm talking about where a song came from, and then how that flowed into the book. And you know, I think we were talking earlier in the preparation of this chat, like I had a song, Waiting for the Cyclone.
Well, I want you to introduce that as because I'm about to play it at the end of our interview. So you said that helps set the kind of mood and tone for the current book. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so as I said before, with this idea of doing something in the Kimberley, really where that sprang from was that I'd been reading, this was early 2000s, I'd been reading a number of authors who were using location like a character, as I said, and I really loved it. James Lee Burke, for people who are familiar with his Dave Roberts show down in the Louisiana swamps, and Henning Mankell, the opposite, the frosty fir forests.
Yes, I get cold whenever I read his books.
Yeah, sensational. So So I thought, it was the atmosphere and the tone of the book was so tight in that writing, and I thought I want to do something. So when I was thinking the Kimberley, I had written this song, Waiting for the Cyclone, about a bunch of people up beyond the 26th parallel in Western Australia, or Northern Australia anyway, waiting. And that had the kind of tone and atmosphere, this kind of ominous tone that something's going to happen, but you're not quite sure what. It's a tone of unease. It's boredom mixed with unease. And I thought that would be a really good tone for my book, for a crime novel. And so I tried to, I really tried to imbue that first Dan Clement Before It Breaks with that sense, with the. You could feel yourself walking into the room and your shirt sticking to you.
Yes, I can. That build up and that terrible heat. I can really recommend After the Flood as a great read. I'm halfway through it and I'm really totally engrossed. And good luck with the tour in WA and beyond, Dave. And thanks for your time today. So,
it's a pleasure, and what a great radio station and.
Good old Northside.
And terrific to talk. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. So, everyone, this is the Waiting for the Cyclone by Dave Warner. Thank you. She says, hoping it's good. Here it comes.
Open, but the beer isn't cold, and they go na 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 na. The cards are tumbling, but the dice are still. So's a cockroach by the windowsill. He picked the wrong place to find a thrill, and he goes na 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 na. Drapes herself like Marilyn Monroe. Her wet dress clings and her tits are hard. The boys don't notice in the smoky room. They just scull their beer and they play their cards and they go na 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 na. Jenny Jimmy's a bottle of beer. Waiting for the cyclone ain't really much fun. Hot as an oven in here. Well, life isn't good here, life isn't bad. Life hardly exists here at all. Those who belong nowhere only belong here, beyond the 26th parallel. Big Jimmy deals again and steals a smoke. Nobody minds cause he's a real good bloke. The bets are rising and so's the sweat and they go na 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 na. Melinda's bored so she clicks on the tally. Someone yells out to turn it down. Zack the dog is lying on his belly.